can say is that it has a very important impact on what the young people are allowed to do or invited to do. Because I've seen all too many programmes where the volunteers came free. I remember going to a hospital in a nation I will not mention, where we were encouraging the hospital to think about involving volunteers, and I asked how many they would like, and the hospital director said 6. So I waited for my colleague to respond, and before she did, he said, all right then, 12, which told us immediately he had no idea what they were going to do. They came free, thanks to government money, and he wanted to please the government, and the nature of their role hadn't been developed, and indeed could be entirely negative.
And there are, unfortunately, some organizations that it's a question of numbers. More people, more participants that I have, more services I can do to the community, and it's not a question of budget. We hate this kind of model because it's a way to produce only problems for the nature, for the message to the young people above all. Our model is, okay, if you decide to send a project, why you decide to send the project? And then we have a rule. For each project, the maximum number is 6 participants. And you need, as an organization, to decide the objectives having this kind of limit. It is a kind of self-learning for the organization too, to think which kind of goal is possible to realize having this maximum number of. And one of the reasons is because this small number is a way to create a group and to learn operators and young people to work together to have specific objectives.
Just a quick on the Jamaican experience. We have 3 approaches. One where the private sector would pay the stipend for the participants that go to their placement. The second, we have a situation where government and NGOs would give lunch assistance. So the IANYS would pay the stipend, but lunch assistance would be given by government and NGO. The third is a situation where the placement is asked to get into a mentoring relationship with the participants. So there is no money involved, but the participants become a mentor to that particular corporate entity to which they are placed. Before any participant is placed anywhere, a job description has to be agreed and written. So the participant on the first day of placement will be given a written job description indicating that over the period of placement, these are what your functions are going to be. This is the duration for which you're going to be working here, and this is when you start a day and complete a day. So we're trying to use that to build a real culture of productivity in the participant, as well as a culture of responsibility on the side of the placement.
A few basic facts about the civic service in Israel now. We have approximately 12,000 volunteers in service now. Last year was 11,000. Their ages are 18 to 22. Majority of the volunteers are females, due to the fact that most of Israeli males are serving in the army, and 8% of the volunteers are Israeli Arabis.
I think that in the context of a global financial crisis, things are going to get a lot harder for young people, and in the context of developing countries, unemployment among youth is going to increase. And so the pressure on countries to find solutions for young people's development and how they can be mainstreamed will increase. to an even greater extent than we've been experiencing them. So I think IANYS increasingly will have a bigger role to play in helping to shape the policy agendas around National Youth Service and to help set new benchmarks in terms of what constitutes productive and experiential and developmental youth service programs. I think we need to guard against what could be a tendency to use youth service to control young people and close them down, because governments have no other options. So I think IANYS can play quite a big role as setting the quality standards for youth service internationally.
You see, governments usually do not like to deal with issues like voluntarism. It's almost like an antagonism. Governments and voluntary actions don't go together. Governments usually talk about policies, budgets, programs, and so on. And especially when a voluntary scheme requires some extra budget from the government, and they are even more strongly objecting and not happy about it. That was the case in Israel for a long time, and still is. My greatest fights are not with Arab leaders, Israeli Arab leaders who check the program, nor with the ultra-Orthodox rabbis who check the program. My greatest fights are with treasury officials and clerics in the treasury ministry. They object budgets that have to go to programs that are voluntary, that have to do with the community, and have to do with voluntarism. It's something that to go. And I think it's only when these two players, those two roles, come together, join together, that it can work. The social, the NGO sector that comes up with the initiatives and the ideas and so on, and people within the government who understand that in the long run, such programs can help in terms of the labor market, employability, contributing to the national budget and things like that. Only when you can bring those two bodies together to think along the same lines, you can overcome obstacles like this.
And one of the reasons I think is that it's complicated to combine the long-term strategy as an educational strategy that this kind of program, because we need time to offer to the society, the local communities, the real results, not only in terms of facts, but in terms of people that before wasn't able to serve the community and after are able to serve the community, and the short-term strategies of politicians. They have 4 years, in Italy it's difficult for years, maybe 2 years. We have some troubles in government and we need to change something. So this is one challenge, how is possible to combine these two different strategies, long-term and short-term.
To ask the question, which most folks are still asking today, why would I, as a corporate company or a philanthropy or a state or federal government, deploy resource into a national service instrument of any type, volunteerism included, what would I get back for my money in return? I think that's a difficult question to answer today. And because the variables are so different throughout different countries of how you'd actually qualify the response to that. But what we're missing is, what is it that we're really trying to do? We're trying to get societies back together in a civil sense of engagement where families are talking to each other, where young people are becoming viable within their own communities, where national youth service in any country becomes something of an opportunity, a visual opportunity for the country as well as the young people to actually be invested in something, a meaningful experience and opportunity and and to bring not just credibility back to themselves for why they engage, but to their whole family for being someone in a community that's engaging in service and helping